Hi, friends. Welcome to the Do Life podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about manifestation. Is it real? Is it fake? How do I do it? Or what do I do instead if it's not? I'm your host, life coach Layla, and today we're going to get into all of that. And to answer the question about whether or not manifestation is real, let's look at the definition first. The most basic breakdown of the word is to make public or appear. For example, an underlying disease may manifest itself through signs and symptoms of a cold. So technically the answer is yes. And this is a big but, like even bigger than mine. You can't just make things magically happen out of thin air. You can't just sit there and wish and will something into being. You have to take applied action. There's an 80-20 rule. I'm like pretty close to it either way. Pareto's rule of 80-20 is 80% of the rewards you get is from 20% of the effort you put in, or something along those lines. Like 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. You get it either way. So in a manifestation situation, it's kind of catchy. I like the ring of that. Anyway, sorry, my ADD is all over the place today, so you're just gonna have to bear with me on this one. It's gonna be a journey. So yeah, if you want a new job or partner, you can't just sit around and will it into being. You have to go and apply for that job. You have to talk to that person. I guess let's get into the science of it. First and foremost, there is no scientific research that shows that manifestation, being the magical version of just making something appear out of thin air, is real. Obviously, that doesn't exist. There's no science behind that. There are no scientific studies that show manifestation can appear from nothing, but there are scientific studies that do show that your brain will form new neural pathways through repeated thoughts, feelings, and emotions and experiences, actions. And when an individual concentrates on those specific goals and aspirations, these pathways are strengthened, allowing the brain to adapt and facilitate actions that align with that focus. For example, when someone plays the piano regularly, their brain strengthens the neural pathways that help them remember the keys and the music and like the neural connections based with the finger movements. Over time, this practice leads to enhanced skill and fluency, demonstrating how focused effort can enhance neural pathways. Studies have also been shown that people who visualize practicing playing the piano are just as efficient as people who actually practice playing the piano. Now, there's a caveat. You can't just visualize playing the piano and never play the piano. The study shows you visualize playing the piano and then play the piano, it's like you're learning twice as fast. So the visualization is important, yes, but the action is just as important. Again, we're not creating something out of thin air, but we are enhancing our abilities to do things, if that makes sense. So something else our brain uses is it's called a mental template, which are cognitive frameworks stored in short-term memory to identify and process information, kind of like your brain's personal cache. So like when searching for a set of keys in a cluttered room, your brain will go through those templates and find references to those keys, such as shape, size, color, texture, so you can quickly locate them without sorting through all the debris without any kind of system in place. It's basically the same thing your eyes do when you're looking for like a Where's Waldo picture. Like you're looking for that stupid hat and all those people because you can recognize that amongst everybody else. It's just a quick way to find something and compartmentalize it. So when you're trying to manifest a specific object or item or person or job or something, your brain will recognize that and hone in on it in your everyday life. So you'll see more signs and be more aware, and your brain will be more focused on that. So that's the real science behind manifestation. Basically, the more you practice doing something, the better you'll be at it. You can't create something out of thin air, unless you're a magician, but even still, some of that stuff's kind of fake. Anyway, let's let's get into the quantum physics of it. In quantum physics, the observer effect indicates that the act of observation can alter the state of the quantum system. This concept parallels the idea that directing attention towards a particular object or outcome can influence the likelihood of its occurrence. There was a double slit experiment. Particles such as electrons are observed as they pass through two slits. They behave like particles, creating distinct patterns. However, when unobserved, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern. This illustrates how observation can influence outcomes at a quantum level. The old adage of if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? According to this study, no. Quantum physics also states that all matter is fundamentally composed of energy, and our mental states, thoughts, and emotions can be seen as varying energy frequencies. These frequencies may play a role in shaping our experiences and the reality we encounter. For instance, there's a group of people in a room. One person is super negative and just throws off the whole vibe. And everybody's experienced this before. You can be in a happy, great mood, but then that person's just such a drag, such a drain on your energy. And the next thing you know, everybody leaves this room kind of in a slump in that. Bleh. When I was a manager, I would call those people a cancer because their negativity spread so fast, and my entire team would be down in the dumps if I didn't address that person and their attitude like immediately. It's hard for us to stay in a positive mindset because our brains are hardwired to hold on to negative thoughts and emotions and instances for protection, basically. Back in the day, if there was a tiger living in this cave, our brains would remember that cave is bad and dangerous, and then any new cave would be bad and dangerous. So it's easier for us to hold on to the negative and so much harder for us to stay in a positive mindset. But for the sake of manifestation, you need to be in a positive mindset. And we'll get into that a little bit more down the road. So to recap, we went from the actual science behind manifestation. We went through the quantum physics behind it. Now let's get into the metaphysics. Again, I'm trying to stay balanced. We're going to talk about this a little bit longer because there's more steps. There's only a couple of instances of scientific research and quantum research. So let's do the metaphysics. So most of the people in the metaphysical realm were introduced to manifestation through The Secret by Rhonda Bryans. I'm close enough. Man, I'm doing a really bad job with names today. Anyway, so The Secret is great, but it talks about the law of attraction. And what so many people don't realize is there's 11 other laws of the universe. So we're going to briefly cover them. I'm not going to go into great detail. You can do your own research on that. But basically, let's talk about each of the laws and kind of how they are integral if you're really trying to manifest something. So the law of attraction states like attracts like. If your thoughts and actions are positive, your results will be positive. If your thoughts and actions are negative, you'll attract negative. It's pretty much it. That's the law of attraction. Now, a similar law would be the law of gender, which states that everything has a masculine and feminine energy. And there needs to be a balance between them. It doesn't have to be an equal balance. You know, a man should have way more masculine energy than feminine, but there needs to be that harmonious balance between where they are, what they are, if I'm making sense. So like when you're manifesting something, money, for instance, is a masculine energy. Money wants to take care of you, wants to be there for you, wants to come to you and comfort you, and, you know, wants to take care of you, provide for you, support you, wants to do all the things. So money is very masculine. So when you're trying to manifest money and you're coming at it like, I want this much by this time and this day, and I'm going to make this happen, and I need more money, and money's never here for me, and there's never enough, and you're coming from this aggressive, overly masculine energy, your manifestations are going to take forever. I'm not going to say that they're never going to come through or anything like that, but they will take longer to come to fruition because you're polarizing energies. You're coming from you're trying to attract masculine with masculine, and essentially you're pushing it away. Like trying to put two magnets together from the wrong end. Yeah, they push each other away. Essentially what you're doing with your manifestation. You need to come to your manifestation for money with a more feminine flow, an energy, a surrendered state. Let it come to you. I don't know any better way to explain that. So if you're manifesting something, find out whether or not it's masculine or feminine and figure out how you can balance those energies in your manifestations, and then they'll come to fruition a lot faster. So I guess I mentioned the law of polarity, which it's pretty similar. There's a lot of these laws that are going to be very similar to the other, but just different enough to make a difference. When you get into the grand scheme of things and you're really researching them, you'll see why. It's not like just a law of opposites that covers gender and polarity and all the things, because each one is specific for certain reasons. So it's going to sound kind of redundant when I'm just basically covering them, but this is just for informational purposes anyway. But there is a law of polarity, and it states that everything is dual, everything has a set of opposites, everything is a pair. Like is unlike, opposites are identical in nature but differ in degree. So for instance, sound. Sound is one thing, but it can be loud or quiet. So those two polar opposite ends of one thing. Temperature can be hot or cold. It's one thing, but there's polar opposites. That's your law of polarity. So when focusing on your manifestation, you want to use the law of polarity to your advantage by focusing on what you want to happen, not what you don't want to happen. You want to say things like, I want a loving, happy, supportive relationship with a man who's only interested in me. That's it. That's your focus. That's your manifestation. You do not want to say, I want my boyfriend to quit looking at porn and obsessing over women and ignoring me. You're just going to get more of that. So when you're manifesting something, you want to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. That's how you use the law of polarity to your advantage. Next is the law of rhythm. Pretty basic, pretty self-explanatory. Everything has a heartbeat, a breath, an in and out, and up and down. A rhythm, like a pendulum swinging. There's a constant dance of up and downs. So basically, when you're thinking about your manifestation, is it in alignment with your flow, with your rhythm, with your life? Does it make sense for you? Because if you're asking for something that you might not even want, if you're asking for something because it's somebody else's dreams or wishes, probably not going to happen easily. So it needs to move and be in alignment with your own natural rhythm on this planet. Next is the law of correspondence. The idea is that what you think and feel will reflect back to you. The universe will respond to you as you respond to it. It's often summarized with the phrase, as above, so below. You can't do a bunch of negative things and expect a bunch of good things to happen to you. Likewise, if you do a bunch of bad things, a good thing, that's the same thing. Anyway, you get the idea, which kind of ties into the law of correspondence and the law of cause and effect. They're all kind of very similar. While both the universal law of compensation and the law of cause and effect are based on the idea that actions have consequences, the key distinction is that compensation specifically focuses on the idea of receiving a balanced reward or return of your positive actions, emphasizing the concept of giving and receiving in equal or greater measure, such as the rule of threefold in many occult practices. Whereas the law of cause and effect simply states that every action will have a predictable reaction, whether positive or negative, without highlighting the balance of fairness in return, like karma. The law of compensation basically says what you reap what you sow. What you put into the world is what you get out of it. Whereas the law of cause and effect states everything happens for a reason, nothing happens by accident. Let's see. We already talked about the law of action with the 80-20 rule. We don't need to get into that one again. How about the law of oneness? The law of oneness states that we are all connected. We are all one consciousness. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is really energy condensed to a slow vibration. We are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream and we are the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather. I'm not sorry if you don't get the Bill Hicks reference, but I couldn't not go there with we are all one consciousness. But okay, that's the law of oneness. But I guess that kind of bleeds into the next two laws, which are the laws of resonance and the laws of perpetual transmutation of energy. So the law of vibration basically says that everything is a vibration and has a frequency. Pretty basic, right? So if you're trying to manifest something, you have to match the energy, the vibration, the frequency of what it is that you're calling in. And that's so hard to do. This is probably the one that I struggle with most when I'm trying to manifest something. Like, if you're trying to manifest money from a poor person's vibration, it's so hard to manifest money, but you have to be in that mindset, that frequency of someone who has money. And then the money attracts to you because the universe doesn't know the difference between reality and thoughts and energies and feelings and vibrations and frequencies. It just follows the vibrations and the frequencies. So when you're manifesting something like a happy relationship, you be that person, match that vibration, match that frequency, match that energy of the person that you want to call in. So many people want out of a bad relationship and they leave this vibrational relationship and get into something very similar, same dude, different face, basically. Same chicks, different drama, or, different chicks, same drama. You get what I'm saying? But basically, like, they're not changing the vibration that they're in. They're not changing the energy that they're in. And therefore, they're calling in the same cycle, the same thing. They're in that frequency. So until you level up, until you be the frequency and the vibration of what it is that you're calling in, you're repelling it. That polarity law comes into play. So then the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. That's a lot of words. What do those mean? It basically means that energy is always moving and in motion. It can never be destroyed, only transformed, which is why, when he says there's no such thing as death, when you die, we're all just energy, or energy goes somewhere. I'm not going to get into that discussion right now. We're not going to have that conversation. That was just why the Bill Hicks quote reminded me of this law. How about that? We're done. We're done here. You get it. Okay, so I believe that leaves us with one more law. The universal law of relativity, not to be confused with Einstein's theory of relativity, which is a fundamental concept of the theory, but more of a core idea. The law of relativity tells us that everything in our physical world is only made real by its relationship to something else. Light only exists because there's a darkness. Hot only exists because there's cold. Up, down, black, white, you get it. So this law reminds me, I introduced a couple friends together like 15 years ago or so, and they were both in pretty toxic relationships prior to dating each other. And I made a speech at their wedding, and I basically said something along the lines of, you spend a lot of time with the wrong person, so you can truly appreciate the right one when they come along. And this law and that speech is kind of what I attribute to your manifestations. So, like we said, all those people that are in the bad relationships, just repeating that energy in those cycles, is probably so they really do appreciate the right person when they come along. Because me and my partner make jokes about how, we were both attracted to each other the first time we ever met, but we were not in a place in our lives where that would have ever worked. I was a mess and he was also a mess. And the way we would have never been able to survive our relationship, we barely survived it as adults because we were super toxic when we got together. And again, we've grown and healed and done a lot of things as adults. There's still a lot more work to do. But at that time and place when we met each other, we would have never been able to appreciate each other at that point. So everything exists because its opposite exists. We're together now because we couldn't have been together then. So that's all about that law. All right. Well, that was all the sciencey stuff in a nutshell. I guess if you're still here, you're waiting for me to give you some sort of practical tips or helpful hints and information on how to implement some of this into real practices. So I know I gave a lot of information on how to use the specific laws towards your manifestation, but let's go over a few more. Let me preface this by saying there are multiple different ways to manifest, and not everything is going to work with everybody. So take what resonates with you and leave the rest for someone else. So like vision boards. Number one, it doesn't have to be magazine cutouts and tedious gluing and pasting like a kindergarten project. And no offense if that's what you do. Like, I love that idea. I just don't have the time for that. But a vision board can be anything that you see regularly throughout the day. So my vision boards are, I have 2 phones and a laptop, and each phone has different backgrounds and screensavers. And so does my laptop of different things that I want to focus on. So my laptop is like all my business visions and career goals and ideas. And, my main phone is my life goals and I call it the mermaid phone. It's my work phone, but whatever. It's waterproof, so I take mermaid pictures and videos on it. Anyway, and the mermaid phone has a picture collage of all the different things. So, you can make a vision board however it works for you, and it really just depends on what you have time to do, what fits in your lifestyle. So if that's something that you think you can do or want to do, it's really helpful to have that visual representation, because whenever you see it, it puts you in that positive mindset. It gets the vibrations matching and the energy flowing in the direction of the goals and the things that you want. I will say that every vision board I've ever made has basically came to fruition, and I wish I would have made more of them prior. So number 2, journaling. There's scientific research that shows that taking notes by hand leads to better comprehension and synthesis. The neuroscience states that it's actually better to keep a written journal because we write slower than we type, so it forces our brains to slow down and be more intentional is not a word, and be more intentional about what we write. Some people actually use journaling as a form of divination. So if you watch my perfect morning video where I say you wake up first thing in the morning, you go to the bathroom, and then you meditate, because you're still in that kind of lower brainwave state where your brain's able to be more programmed. When you're still in that kind of groggy, like, oh my God, I don't know my name state, it's so much better for you to write and journal, because those aren't really your thoughts. Your brain's not firing on all cylinders. So when you're writing things and you turn around and you read it later and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Where did that come from? That wasn't me. So that's just a fun thing that you could do, especially if you're trying to write out a manifestation or a positive affirmation or something along those lines. When you're still in those low brainwave states, it's said that you're more connected to the spiritual realm in those states. So you're talking directly to whatever you want to call it or say. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just saying that's a thing that's been said that people think. How about that? There's something called the 369 method, not the mafia. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the method. It's supposedly Nikola Tesla's secret to manifestation. And you write your manifestation 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times in the evening. And you do this for 21 days or something along those lines. I don't know. This one didn't really resonate with me because I feel like writing something repetitive is super boring, and my ADD does not appreciate that. And I also attribute it to being punished in school. So it has a negative effect on me, which isn't going to have a positive outcome if I'm trying to manifest something. So this is just something that I avoid, but I wanted to mention it because it's been real popular on like TikTok or whatever else, and I've heard a lot of people talking about it. So it's there. It's an option. You can look into it more if you want to. So number 4, I would say, is probably the most important as far as my opinion goes, is visualization. You have to have a clear definition, a clear like your big picture goal. You have to have a clear definition of what it is that you're calling in. And it has to be specific. So if you tell the universe, I want more money, you're going to walk outside and find a penny on the ground. That's the universe giving you more money. I promise they got jokes. The universe has got jokes, or God, or whatever you want to call it. It's hilarious. The weirdest sense of humor ever. Um, so yeah, if you ask for more money, you might find a penny on the ground. You have to get clear on your intentions. You say, I want $1 million. Okay, but why? There's no energy behind that. There's no frequency or vibration behind you saying, I want $1 million. Everybody says they want $1 million. What does $1 million look like to you? What are you going to do with that $1 million? How can you bring in all 5 senses into your visualization? How can you picture $1 million? What does that smell like? What does it feel like? What are you wearing Versace perfume? Every time you smell that Versace perfume, you feel like you have $1 million. You're incorporating your senses to your visualization. So have a big picture visualization, get clear on your intentions, what it is you want and why. You need to know the why behind it, and you need to resonate with that vibration. And also when you're doing your visualization, if you picture you have $1 million and then all of a sudden you picture, Aunt Joe and Uncle Judy, it's 2024, that could be a thing. Anyway, and you picture your relatives and crazy people asking you for money, that's a money block. That's a fear that's keeping you from getting that money. And we're not going to go into blocks and all that stuff right now. That is a whole nother episode that I may or may not ever do. But yeah, you've got blocks when you're doing your happy visualization about what this looks like to you, and all these negative things show up. So that's something to be mindful of, be aware of, and figure out, because your manifestations will never come through if you're full of money blocks or other blocks. And like I said before, you have to stay in a positive mindset. If you want positive things to flow through you, you have to be a positive vibration. You have to match that. And I know it's super hard to do that, but that's why having the vision board helps. That's why having saying positive affirmations first thing in the morning, you're programming your brain, you're training your brain to believe and think that these positive things are possible for you. And it just keeps you in that happy, positive vibration. I picture a bubble around me when I'm in a room, like say I'm having a hard conversation with someone and I know that they're in a very negative space and I want to protect my energy. I just envision a bubble around me, and when they try to touch me or their words, it just bounces off of me and it doesn't absorb, because I tend to absorb other people's energies. And I know this is a very metaphysical conversation. I tried to stay balanced. I'm doing a really bad job of that this episode, but it's not really it's a metaphysical topic, so it's hard not to go down that wormhole. Anyway, so yeah, do whatever you need to do to stay positive. There's a quote out there that says you're the sum of the 5 people you spend your time with the most. And I believe that is so, so real. And I've cut out a lot of people in my life that I just feel energetically drained after being with them. Like I feel exhausted from spending a lunch break with someone, or, things like that. So I try to spend my time with people who, like my own personal hype men, they're not always the hype men. Sometimes they tell me I'm stupid, and that's fine, because we all need to hear that every once in a while. But for the most part, I know it comes from a place of love, but for the most part, they're there to uplift me, and we support each other. So, and I try to surround myself with people that are where I want to be, or influential in my life at some sort, mentors, coaches, um, people that are there to lift you up. So staying in a positive mindset is super important. Surrounding yourself with people who will help you stay there is also equally important. And there's a handful of other options I'll briefly share. I kind of went over some of them, network with people that have the same manifestations, goals, and ideas as you. Educate yourself on the topic. When you're building those neural pathways and you're learning about things, the more you learn, the more you're thinking about it, the more you're in the vibration of it. It's all just a snowball, and the better equipped you'll be when it finally comes through. Like, I have absolutely researched what to do when you win the lottery, how I'm going to set up my LLC, I'm going to cash it in under a business name, and do the things. So you do the research on the thing that you want. So when it happens, you're ready already. And when I said network with people, talk about it with your friends, talk about it with people who will uplift you, not people who are like, that's a stupid idea, don't do that. Don't let people talk you out of your dreams. Talk to people who will be like, yeah, if you think that's possible, I believe in you. But speaking it out loud, it's spelling, it's casting spells, it's words. You put that in the universe, you say it out loud, you do that. So that's something else that you can do. There's goal setting. So make sure you're setting goals to achieve your manifestations. Again, it's not just sit around and wish something into fruition. You have to put actionable steps and items in place to manifest it. So when you're making your goals, make sure they're believable and attainable. If you don't believe that this manifestation is real, that that's possible for you, it's never going to come to fruition. You're not going to manifest something you don't believe you can manifest or have or deserve to have, or, all of the things. Last but not least, get a manifestation coach. Everyone who's ever been great in anything has a coach or a partner, a person in their corner, cheering them on, giving them advice, lifting them up, being their hype man. You need a coach. There's specific manifestation coaches. You can also just have a regular coach that helps you with your mindset. So you need a coach in your corner to help facilitate any of your long-term goals, dreams, wishes, manifestations. If you want to go one-on-one with me, I will post a link to my website below. You can schedule, we can chat, figure out if we're a good fit. You can also subscribe to my newsletter. Also subscribe to the channel, comment, do all the standard things. I feel like this has been a really good conversation today. This isn't a conversation, this is me talking. Anyway, we learned a lot today. We talked about the science behind the manifestation, the quantum physics behind manifestation, and the metaphysicals behind manifestation, and some helpful practical tips and ways to manifest. And we went over the 12 laws of the universe one by one and how to use them and incorporate them into your manifestations. I tried to stay within a harmonious balance of science and metaphysical, and I think I teetered a little heavy on the metaphysical side today. But again, we're on a metaphysical topic, so that's almost to be expected sometimes. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you found value in this. And now let's go do life.